Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Single Player Let's Play series. So, in the last couple of episodes, I've been preparing and gathering everything needed to get our arboreal extractors here up and running, and everything seems to be running just fine. We've accumulated a decent, I'd say respectable amount of latex, and at this point I definitely would like to look into using this latex because we've got 83 buckets right now, it looks like, and we are continuing to grow on that supply. But I don't need latex in its fluid form nearly as much as I need what I can make with it. So why don't we get that kind of stuff ready for today's episode. We're going to need two machines for this. We're going to need a blast chiller and we're going to need a metal press. So why don't we get those ready and raring to go. We should already have most of the things that we need for this either on AutoCraft or just available. We're going to need steel scaffolding. So we'll go ahead and make that really quickly. And there we go. That should do it. And so now we will just need our usual frame. We'll need two of these. I love that we have everything on AutoCraft now. And then we'll need engineering blocks. So we'll need 2 redstone and 2 light. So let's go ahead and get all of this ready. And the premise of the recipe for a couple of these will be a little different. So for the metal press, we've already done that. That is the multi-servo press, actually. So that we're going to need 2 heavies, 2 pistons, and so we should have 2 heavies, right? Yeah, it looks like we do. We're going to need 2 pistons. And we're going to need a mechanical press and a depot, which we have apparently a ton of. I can't say that I can explain that one. I'm not sure where I used all those depots. Anyways, so this will be here, and then those will be there, and that will get us one more multi-servo press. I'm going to go ahead and get resonant upgrades for both of these machines, so we'll go ahead and put those on AutoCraft in the background. And while we work on that, we're also going to need a blast chiller. So the blast chiller here is a machine that doesn't get used an awful lot from what I can tell by most players, but we're going to need the encased fans. Fortunately, we have a bunch of these, so we are good there. We're going to need a, we're going to need frame and light and redstone here. We're going to need more of that steel scaffolding. Did I put, oh, I just never did make enough. I am out of my mind today. Not quite up to spec for the math today. I don't know what's going on. I've been looking and building graphs all day at work today, so I think I'm just a little bit brain dead from all of that. Anyways, we've got our 3 fans. Whoops, come on. There we go. We've got our 3 fans, and then there's one material that is not super trivial, but it's also not terribly difficult to make, and that is the moonstone. So moonstone is just sunstone thrown through a nether portal, and sunstone is pretty affordable. All you have to do is do that, and that will get you some sunstone. I'll go ahead and make a decent bit. And sunstone is a really beautiful texture. I think this has a really lovely color palette. And it's one that I definitely like to use every now and then. It's not one that I've used a lot, though. And that is going to be used as part of the magma crucible, I believe. Yes, and so if we throw this through our portal here, we can turn these into moonstone from sunstone. We'll invert them, which I think is kind of funny. I would think of it the other way. Either throwing it into the end portal to make it moonstone, or throwing moonstone into the portal to make it sunstone. But whatever. I do still love the warping mechanic. It is one that I find very, very helpful. Personally, I think it's one, as a pack creator, I think it's one that's pretty dang fun too, because it's not one that you have to do, you can control how regularly it needs to be done, and I've made it so that it's not something you have to do all that regularly. Anyways, I believe this should get us one more crafting machine that we will need for this process, and that is the blast chiller. It's also going to get us one more quest completed, which is not at all why we're here, you know that, but hey, it is definitely always appreciated when we can get a little more free experience and a little more progress made. So, we already have down here, and I should probably make a better access point. In fact, it probably would not be a bad idea to do that really quickly. All we have to do, let's just get some, some spruce wood, and we've got those ladders, these andesite ladders, and the glass trapdoors. These are, I really like these because they connect, so you can actually do 2x2 ladder systems down, and they don't look completely goofy. Right, I was going to change these out with spruce really quickly. Just these 4. Go ahead and put that there. And that way we can make our way up and down without having to dig around mindlessly again. So now anytime we want to come down here, we just have to do that. And we are going to be centered with the big spruce tree and easily get access to everything else. So if you remember in the last couple of episodes, we have set up a energy system so we can do energy delivery down here. We currently are not, but we are about to. So I think that hopefully answers some potential questions about why I did that. And so what we can do is we can set up our connectors. I'm trying to think of how to do it conservatively, but also not like stupidly messily. We could put them here. I think this would actually be pretty clean. And so what we'll do is we'll of course need to go to our energy channel, this guy, and tell it to insert energy into these 2. So these are going to fill up eventually. I actually don't know. I think the channel is set to... oh, it doesn't actually have a round robin or priority option, so I think it's just gonna deliver in the order that it can, unless I messed something up. Oh, I just messed up. That's all it is. Okay. I was really confused for a minute. Let's go ahead and grab the resonant integral components that I made earlier. And now we can start with auto crafting with our fluids. So the blast chiller's purpose is to turn our latex into rubber, and that is on its own a very valuable resource to have. I'm also going to grab one more connector and a dimensional chest, which hopefully I just have. I should start to autocraft these, but they are a little finicky to autocraft, and that will be probably its own episode, just showing off how to do that. So I'm going to put that right there, and if I put something in here, is this my import chest? It is. Beautiful, delightful. So that is our importing chest, which is exactly what I want. This will be our target. So what we can do is we can make latex go into the blast chiller. So what I'll do is we want one side to do all the work. This left side here, this connector, I want it to do all the work. I want it to provide energy, I want it to provide fluids, and I want it to pull out items. So what I can do, you don't have to do anything for energy. Thermal machines will accept energy from any side. But if I configure this side to input, it'll only input. If I configure this side to output, it'll only output. But if I do both, then if I have another device like this one that is more intelligent than the thermal machine, or even if it's not, thermal will try to guess what to do if you don't have a better solution already implemented. So if this was a chest rather than a connector, it will input and output out of that chest, which may lead to accidental machine processing of like ingots, for example. Maybe that was an output chest for ingots, and now you're crushing your ingots up again. You know, that's a potential issue you could run into. But we're going to do the same thing for that as well, because we're going to use XNet to fully control the I/O for the blast chiller. So what are we going to do for this exactly? Well, we are going to take, let's see, we should have named these, right? So this is the latex channel and this is the resin channel. So we're extracting from here. We're going to set U as a priority of -1. And then we're going to set our, let's see, latex tank, our blast chiller as an insert on priority 1. So now we should be prioritizing latex insertion into this guy rather than into our latex tank. However, I'm noticing that that is not happening. Why? Insertion priority. I would assume a higher priority. Priority mode. There we go. So now we're putting latex in here. Apparently I'd put it in distribution or round robin mode. And that is not what I wanted. I wanted to prioritize this machine because honestly, I don't care about liquid latex all that much. So unless there is a better distribution mode, which there might be actually, let's see. Nope, just priority or that. Anyways, that's just going to be sort of our process here, is to try to prioritize getting this guy filled up. Now, that's going to produce rubber, and rubber is great. Rubber is exactly what we're wanting to get. So we want now to extract in a round robin format, so that way some of our rubber goes into our network, because I want to keep some rubber, but I also want to keep, so we're going to put this in round robin, but I also want to turn some rubber in a multi-servo press into plastic sheets. Now, mind you, I could probably auto-craft these, but I think just having this stock on its own entirely would be perfect. So we are going to round robin extract, so this is going to be rubber management, so we'll just do MGMT, perfect. Not the band. And here on our blast chiller, we're going to create a channel and we're going to extract out of there. We're going to insert into not only our multi-servo press, but also into our dimensional chest. So that should mean that the next time that we get enough latex to produce, and actually you can see it already has, there's 2 pieces of rubber already in here, which is perfect. This third piece should go to our system. And there it is, 1 piece of rubber. So now the next piece that we have pull out, which takes a little bit of time to produce enough to make this work. I think it's what, 100 millibuckets? Yeah, so it's pretty quickly. You can see we've been producing it pretty quickly here. But that should momentarily, come on, no rush, should process, and that one should go into here. There we go. And now that rubber is going to turn into a plastic sheet from Pneumatic Craft. Not an unfamiliar process to us, of course. We've already done that. And so now at this point, we're just going to need one more item network, which is plastic to network. And I don't really pay too much attention to the channel names because they're up here and they're really small. But I just like to set them up so that you guys, if you're following along, you can kind of at least have something small to kind of take note on. So we're going to extract out of this guy and into our dimensional chest as well. And so now those are gone, and we should now have, well, we already had 132 plastics, so that's kind of a moot point. If I took some more of this rubber here, we have 3 pieces as it is anyway. If I put this in there, and you can see 1 piece of plastic is now in our network. So that's it. That's the system. That is all that really needs to be done here. You can see it has become a rainy nightmare out here. So let's maybe take a nap and see if we can get this a little bit more optimized, maybe. I'm not sure if I can do anything better with the cable runs, but I might be able to at least make it faster with some bone meal or something. Let's see. So one thing of note, you can put bone meal in here, and I'm going to just evenly distribute this across my latex extractors because these are the ones that I do care the most about. Looks like we are missing a piece of grass here. And the bone meal, next time it processes through, will actually start to accelerate the processing of, you can see here this just turned green, will actually process a little faster and get a little bit more latex more quickly. So if you're ever short on latex and you're trying to produce it a little more quickly, that is a potential use case. And you can see now we have an odd number of latex, and that's because it's actually producing more per process as well. So instead of having intervals of 25 millibuckets, we now have 86 somehow, and that somehow is that's how. So 160, you can see it is pretty insane, the benefits here. We already back up to 171. So yeah, a great deal of boosting going towards that for sure. So far, I think we're doing okay in latex. Sorry, I forget that my item grid is an item grid and not a fluid grid. So we might be able to fix that very soon using a super grid, but it's a matter of time until we can do that. But if I look over here, you'll see latex, we're up from 83 to 85, I believe, right? I think it was 83. I might be losing my mind here a little bit. Who knows? But that should help. Now, I did mention last time, I'm going to go and reclaim the creosote here because I don't need this. I could not possibly use all this creosote here of all places anyways. And I'm constantly producing more. So I know there are a select few of you who will be very upset by the waste here. I don't care. We're doing way too good here to be upset about a little bit of wastage. So I'm going to take some of this bone meal. I'm not sure if I've shown you this yet, but if you throw bone meal into this guy here, the crusher, whoops, you have to actually put it in there. Takes being a good aim. There we go. It will actually produce 6 bone meal per 1 bone. So it's way more efficient this way. And so if you're looking to speed up your setup, maybe a skeleton farm using that would not be a bad idea. And that does give me a bit of a thought. Maybe we should set up a skeleton farm. One that just runs idly, and the bones from which could go into speeding up the setup over here. And I don't know that I've ever done anything like that before, so maybe we should look into doing that. I need to kind of gather some thoughts and do some testing before I do that, so I'm going to take a quick little break to go do that. And then I'll be back with hopefully a game plan, because I don't want to string you along on a plan that I don't have even finished yet. But to give you a hint, I do think a little bit it's going to include spawners from Pneumatic Craft. These spawner agitators I think will work. And I want to say that I have a skeleton spawner. Yep, right here. So if we enable this, we can figure out where that is. It's somewhere over here. And we can go fetch that, hopefully, maybe, possibly. So let me do some thinking here. You know, it has been a really long time since I've gone spelunking at all. Does seem like there is a geode here, a potentially haunted geode as well. That's fun. Just trying to figure out how to get to that spawner still. We'll get there shortly. But I do think that the spawner agitator will function in a way that will be beneficial. It doesn't mean it won't be as helpful because we won't be able to just keep the skeleton spawner right underneath the setup, but it does help because it at least lets us keep the skeleton spawner away from our base and kind of distribute, like I've said in the past, distribute some of that lag around. Some of that processing time, some of those load times, we can distribute them. And having this as far away as it is from my house, which is decently far away, helps if I'm going in the right direction. You can see it's quite a good ways away here. I think that's really going to be a helpful mechanic and should hopefully be pretty advantageous to us. We will have to see. So mission number 1 for me is to just go ahead and clear out these barrels and all of this extra stuff around here. And now, let me see. I'm curious. So if I did, let's grab some more of this deep slate and just fill this in a little bit, because I'm quite concerned that this is going to be a problem. Okay, so I just don't want anything to kind of fall in on me or anything. So that should help. So if I put you on there, you can see it's an add-on, a little agitator attachment. So that spawned a skeleton. No surprise, because I'm still here, right? Like that wasn't the test. The test is it going to spawn stuff when I'm not still here? And the means to test this are not really trivial. Unfortunately, I'm just gonna kind of have to hope that if I run like over here, far enough out of distance for it to activate, that we will hopefully still see a skeleton or two. I see just the one. Perhaps the agitator needs to be powered. There are other ways that I could more scientifically test this. Perhaps we're going to have to do something like that. Yeah, I believe we may. Let me set up a little more scientific environment than this, because again, this is just kind of hodgepodge together and nonsense, not particularly helpful at all. Now it's particularly dark. And we'll sort something out. All right, so here is my plan. I have a set of redstone lamps up there hooked up to a redstone transmitter and receiver set up using create. And what we're going to do is we're going to step far enough away with the lights off. And if I turn this off and I see skeletons, great. Great. So this is what I wanted to see. Skeletons are just spawning. I am way further out of render distance or out of loading distance than I should be. Although I do notice that that does still spin. But I do think that this is working. I don't have reason to believe that this isn't working. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up under the assumption that it is in fact working. And I'm going to set this up like pretty much everyone else does. And that's going to be using conveyor belts. And for the attacking mechanism, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I haven't really decided. But we can play with that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this room prepped up. I want this to be a 9x9 interior. So right now it is currently a 5x5. So I've clearly got some work to do. But once I get that work done, I am going to come back and we're going to get this boy set up because I am excited to get some bone automation. That way we can get the latex production maximized because that is the goal. All right, so this setup is just about ready. We are going to try to tunnel mobs down here because I do think that that is just going to be generally the right-ish direction. There's clearly not a lot of stuff going on down here. Before I go too far, I want to make sure that I don't forget how to get back here. So I'm going to do a new tempad location for skeleton farm, I guess. That should work just fine. I hope you like the design of this room. I decided to go with dark and gloomy colors. The floor I'm not going to do because we're about to cover it up in conveyor belts. But in general, I do think that this is kind of a fun design that I went with here. Not one that I usually go with. Y'all know me. I don't tend to do the whole doom and gloom style too terribly much. But considering, you know, the macabre situation of harvesting skeletons for bones to keep my industry up and running, kind of think that that's all too funny and all too not really ironic or even fitting, but just definitely comedic. I would say that there's definitely a good bit of comedic value to that, considering how like non-magical and how industrial this pack and this playthrough specifically have been. I think it's a little bit fun. Anyways, what we're gonna do is we want to use our belts here to route anything that falls or anyone who falls on them to go towards that hole right there. The goal is that inside of that hole, we're going to have a sawmill that is going to take care of our mobs for us. So that means that when it comes to the back of the spawner, we're going to need this one to go to one side or the other. Otherwise, they will get stuck there, which is not ideal. So we want to make sure that they definitely don't do that. I would love to use my building gadget here, but unfortunately, they do not place belts correctly from what I remember. And I do remember testing that relatively recently. I think that was on the 118 Forge serve that I tested that. So that would have been within the last 6 months that I would have tested that in the same game version for sure. So I don't think it's really worth retesting or coming back to. What was worth the time, however, was the leather farm, because we are using the heck out of it. Remember, for 8 conveyor belts, it cost us 3 pieces of leather or hide in this pack. So definitely a worthwhile investment getting that cow farm set up and having it running. So at this point, I would like to have a mechanical saw probably right down here. We definitely don't want a vein mine. No, thank you. So we're going to have a mechanical saw right here, maybe one block, 2 blocks lower. And that should, at least for the moment, take care of the killing part. But I do still need some way to, A, rotate this, of course, which you probably already know exactly which direction I'm headed with this. But B, I also need some means for picking up the drops, probably. I have to imagine that we're going to have drops spilling in places, maybe. Perhaps not. I could be mistaken here. But I get this feeling that we may have to either come up with a different approach or come up with a different implementation altogether. So there are 2 things going through my mind. Option number 1 is that we do... We move this and make it vertical and have them walk into it using a conveyor belt to force them to walk in, them being, of course, the skeletons. And that is a valid approach, and I don't see any main issues with it, but it's just kind of like the most common thing to do, and then we would just put a hopper underneath, and that would work. But I'd like to try something else maybe, possibly, so we'll see. We'll see what works best. If we run into issues with my approach, we'll definitely come back to the more obvious approach. So, of course, we're going to have to make a water pool here for us to pull from. Let me just take care of that really quickly. We're gonna need what, 4 in total? That's not bad. Not bad at all. And this is just a saw, so I'm not gonna accelerate it at all. I don't see any need to. I'm just gonna let it run at its stock speed. And I believe I lined that up correctly. And if I didn't, that's at least an easy fix. But no, it looks like I did. So we're going to grab, of course, shafts. And we're going to give this a little test. So if I do the following, we're going to clear that out and run that line right there. Yep, I'm getting hurt for quite a bit there. We're just going to put that there for now. As per usual, you know, I'm going to go with my aesthetics. So we're going to grab an andesite casing to decorate this this one missing piece with. Oop, nope, not that. I was referring to that. Believe that was just stone cut. Yep, that was. Well, that was purely an accident, but definitely totally fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that using my magnet, I guess. There we go. And what I want to see, what I'm afraid of, you saw there, it was kind of in an infinite loop, so we may have to come up with an interesting approach to fix this. Let me come over here, turn this off. We'll watch the skeletons get funneled in, hopefully. Magnet is off, so we'll know exactly what happens to our items. So yeah, they're just going to keep on getting recycled. So to fix that, let's grab a vacuumulator. This is a machine that I have not yet made. So we're going to need, of course, a thermal servo, and we're also going to need a hopper. And that should get us everything we need once that servo is done. There we go. And the vacuumulator here is very helpful. What we can do is we can take a filter if we really wanted to. I don't really think we're going to need one. And it will pick up items and allow us to move them around. So if I look at the pipe mod, we'll go ahead and take that, a high extraction module, and one more of these dimensional storages that I happened to know we already had around. And I am just going to put this setup right here. So what we'll do, how far are we? Okay, we're good. What we will do is just temporarily sneak around here. And we want our vacuumulator right here. And this is going to pick up any items in the nearby vicinity that get thrown on the ground. So if I throw that down on the ground, it should eventually get picked up. There we go. Again, right now it's going through blocks that it doesn't really handle very cleanly in this very unclean and unkept situation, so I don't blame it. But whatever it picks up, you know, I want it to actually know what to do with. So what we're going to do is put this extraction module on the south side going from the vacuumulator to you, who I hope is my sorting, but is not. So we will go private frequency 1. There we go. So now anything that goes into the vacuumulator will inherently be extracted and then sorted with. So ideally, this is honestly a little bit optimistically, let's grab some panzer glass just temporarily here. And if I came down here, and let's take a look at bone, or arrow, or bow. And we are going to get bows out of this, which is a little unfortunate. And you can hear that right now it is currently trying to cycle a bunch of items through. You know, I wonder if we could filter. Let's take a look at that. I bet we could probably filter that out and keep that from happening. So let's turn our lights back on. I don't know for sure. We're going to have to figure that out. But I want to say that if we tell it, hey, only make these thingies. No, not like that. Thank you, thank you. Step assist here is trying to kill me. There we go. So if we say, hey, only craft those, it should still do Herdes. But if I throw something else down there, no, it's still going to pick it up. Okay, well, hey, at least it's getting picked up pretty quickly. We can always add more vacuumulators if we really wanted to as well, to help make this a little bit more efficient. I was hopeful, again, that that would be pretty good on its own. But that is going to get us a bunch of skeleton drops automatically. Apparently, sometimes they do get stuck, which is interesting. Yep, so there's a bone, and that seems to be working out pretty nicely. Okay, very cool. Again, this is not the most efficient or optimized setup that we could have put together here, and that was never the intention. The intention was just to make something that worked, that is functional. And so what we'll do is we'll probably just keep a stockpile somewhere of bone meal, and that should not be too terribly difficult to set up. So we will definitely need to get this area chunk loaded. Let's go ahead and do that really quickly. I don't think that a single chunk loader will do the job, so we'll go ahead and make a new chunk loader for now. And the chunk loaders have been revamped in the last update, so if I place this down, you'll see that the map is a lot nicer. And if I click to add, you'll see that all of these chunks are going to be loaded. And now there is a keybind. If I want to go over here and look at the view chunk loaders keybind, I'm going to put it on, well, I don't know, U. Then if I go to U, you'll see here's the map that shows me everything that's been loaded in this area, and I can control whether or not those get loaded or not. Realistically, that is not necessary. I can probably do F3G or F9, I believe, to see the chunk borders, but as you can probably tell already, we're kind of at a border here, so it might be better to just go ahead and do like a T shape. And that should definitely cover our borders here. So yeah, that is pretty cool. Now we do clearly need to kind of check up on this every now and then, make sure that it's working. But again, we've got our skeleton farm warp here. I'm going to teleport back home, and I'm going to start getting everything set up for the opposite end of this, because there is a lot that is left for us to do to make sure that we're prepared for this many skeleton bones coming in. So let's go ahead and get that done, because we're going to have a bunch of bows coming in and a bunch of other kind of junky things coming through as well. Do I have bones up here? I do. Great, great. So let's go and put a void upgrade there, and I'll do a couple other things as I go, and I'll be back in a few. All right, so here's the plan. We are going to teach our little devices here how to turn bones into bone meal using the crusher. That way, we get the highest efficiency out of our system, and we also get to use our crusher a little bit more because we don't use it super often. And then we're going to get a crafting card, which you already have from a previous failed attempt. We're going to get an exporter, and we're going to need another dimensional chest, I just remembered. So we'll go ahead and grab that. We'll go ahead and get everything else here. Come on. There we go. And you know what? Let's also do an interface. I don't want to... I don't want to have an issue with the extraction, or rather with the auto crafting taking up too many of our items, because I want to have normal bones in our system available. So kind of a little concerned about that, and this will hopefully work. So let's grab an interface. Interface. There we go. That guy will allow us to say, hey, I want these things, but I only want a certain number. We've got our 5-dimensional chest. You'll see exactly why shortly. We're going to go private frequency 2. Frequency 2 is not used for anything, right? Frequency 3. Oh, 2. Yeah, I was going to say 2 should be used for something. Let's go with 3. We could probably use 2, but I would really hate to risk it, so we'll do that. 3 and 3. We're using these dimensional chests to their absolute limits, but it's mostly because I like the aesthetic of keeping things nice and wireless. So let's grab some pipes. We're going to need more than that, so let's go ahead and grab another stack of those. I love these things. They are so good. And while you do that, we'll come over here. We'll go ahead and get another one of these guys ready, just like we did before. So it's going to look a lot like this setup here. We are running out of space. I do need to do something about this basement back here at some point. That might be what I live stream sometime soon. I may go through and live stream just making a better basement, because this is a mess. This is chaos. Chaos incarnate. Anyways, let's also grab cable, because we're going to need one of those. So we'll put the interface there. We're going to tell you here's how to craft these things, and we want you to keep in stock bone meal. And I want you to keep in stock bone meal. You're going to need a cable. That's why it is not keeping in stock bone meal. There we go. So that's going to help a lot. I'm going to help you out here and just do that. I don't really care. We will do... Did I have 2? Yeah, I guess I did, huh? We had 2 here and going into our dimensional chest. So what we'll do... Really? I can't pick those up? That's surprising. What we'll do is we'll put a stack limiter here saying, hey, literally just keep 64 in here. I don't want more than 64 bone meal going into here at any point in time. And to get it there, we're going to need to put an export bus there, or an export upgrade. Sorry, extraction upgrade, same difference. Cross mod, and I've been playing all the mods a lot lately as well, so my brain is just totally scrambled as far as what goes how. And so now the plan, the reason we have all these other extras, is we're just going to hook these directly into here. So we'll do this and this. We will have you, and you will extract from the bottom into these guys. So we will just repeat the same thing down into those guys. And so now we should see that everything is going to start staying in stock. Everything here is looking decently good. And, you know, it's not perfect, but there are some some goofy things that we can do here to make this look better. The first thing that comes to mind is to lift everything here by one block and then put, like if we took, first of all, you can see bone meal being produced, which is so cool that that's just working. We should have a stack in here still, just a stack. Delightful. Now, if we took a smooth stone slab, this is just my idea for the style of this, right? What we could do is we could basically lift the ground layer up a block in this area. And so while it would normally look really goofy to leave it the way that I am, and again, this is probably live stream content that I'm theorizing here, as far as whether or not I go through with this is still to be seen. But if I take my little wrench here and I put a grass block in my offhand, do you tint? You do tint. So we can hide the chests very easily, which means we could hide the rest of it also very easily. And so these blocks will just be these trees will just be one block shorter. No one will be the wiser, except for you guys, obviously. But just, as you're running through, you're not really going to notice. And I think that this has the potential of looking really good. And considering what all is happening underground, it is outstanding that this is as clean as it is, considering we are producing plastic and rubber and latex, which I can't show you. And we're producing it very quickly because of our lovely little upgrades. Let's make sure nothing down here is clogged. Looks like we are good. Looks like we are good. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really am glad that a lot of you have been kind of a little more active in the chat or in the comment section. I love hearing feedback all the time. So please never be afraid if there's something you didn't like, if there's something that you thought I could do better. If you have an idea, I'm not one of those people who's going to immediately say like no backseat driving and get out of my channel. I like comments. I like hearing back from y'all and getting feedback. So it is always very, very appreciated. Something that I don't normally do, but I have been prompted that maybe I should do this is I am going to, just this once, probably never again, ask that you take a look and see if you're subscribed, because you may or may not be. Again, I don't ever check this kind of stuff, but I've been working really hard to produce this content. I do work a full-time job, and it's kind of appreciated. I've noticed in the last month and a half or two since I started this series that my subs have been, for me, skyrocketing up to 280 or so, 290, I think, actually, which is substantial, and I'm very grateful. But if I could get more, and if I could get more people who, constantly get the notifications of my videos being up on their feed, that's always greatly appreciated as well. One more plug and then I'm done, I promise. I have a Twitch channel. I always link it in my descriptions, but I've been streaming there pretty regularly as well. Twitch.tv/oitsjustjose. Sorry for all the plugs in this one. Just kind of wanted to get that through. And I hope you enjoyed this episode because I certainly enjoyed making it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.